Long ago in a city far, far away, there was a boy who loved to play in the snow. He would throw the snow in the air and catch it in his mouth. He would make snow angels and watch them melt into the cold, hard concrete. And when he tired himself out from all that playing, he would snuggle up in his favorite spot and wait for his mom to come pick him up. One day, the boy looked up at the sky and asked, "Will it ever snow again?" The clouds looked back at him and said, "Maybe." So the boy waited. But the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, but still no snow. This is a story about a boy named Zayn, and the first time it ever snowed in the city he lived in. Now Zayn lived in an eco-city in the year 2067. It was the kind of place where every building had green walls and roofs and robots helped people sort their recyclables. Eco-cities were supposed to be self-sustaining, which meant that they didn't get much help from outside. This was good because it made Zayn's city strong and independent, but it also meant that they didn't have many extra resources lying around, like, say, snow. See, it hadn't snowed in Zayn's city for almost 3 years. All the pipes that pumped water to the buildings froze solid. And whenever the maintenance drones tried to fix them, they just ended up with frozen pipes and a pile of expensive scrap metal. So instead of snow, Zayn and the other kids played in the rain and dreamed about what snow was like. Now one day Zayn was taking his usual route home from school when he noticed something unusual. A flock of birds was flying in perfect circles above the park near his house. Curious, Zayn got closer and saw the birds land on top of the fountain in the park. Then he noticed something even more peculiar. There was a faint white mist coming from the fountain. Could it be? Zayn cautiously approached the fountain and peered inside. Sure enough, it was full of snow. Zayn was so excited that he started making snowmen out of the snow he pulled from the fountain. Soon, a crowd of kids gathered around Zayn, marveling at the sight of real snow. They took turns scooping handfuls of snow and throwing it in the air. When the snow hit the ground, it made a sound none of them had heard in years. Meanwhile, Zayn's mom, Dr. Aliyah, was getting ready to go to work. She was an environmental engineer whose job it was to keep Zayn's city green. But she couldn't help but notice the strange white mist coming from the park. So she put on her waterproof boots and her warmest jacket and walked over to investigate. As she approached the park, she could hear the children laughing and making snow angels. When she saw how happy they were, she couldn't help but smile. She remembered a time when she used to play in the snow herself. As Zayn and the other kids played in the snow, they started to notice new things in their neighborhood. For example, all the plants on Mr. Hernandez's roof had turned a brilliant shade of red. And when they looked up, they realized that Mr. Hernandez's usually white roof was now covered in a thick layer of snow. The kids decided to check out the other rooftops too, and they were amazed at what they found. Most of the roofs were covered in snow, but one in particular caught their attention. It belonged to Zayn's neighbor, Mrs. Gable, who everyone knew had a secret rooftop garden. No one had been able to get up to Mrs. Gable's roof since the snow melted 3 years ago. But now the kids could walk right up to it because it was completely covered in snow. When the kids reached the top of the stairs, they were in for a surprise. The door to Mrs. Gable's roof was open, and a warm, inviting light spilled out from under the door. They knocked on the door, and after a moment, Mrs. Gable opened it. She was wearing a long white coat and a blue scarf, and her eyes twinkled with excitement. Come in, she said. "I've been waiting for someone to open my door for me." Inside, the kids saw rows upon rows of plants growing in neat little rows. The plants were all different shapes and sizes, and some of them were even producing tiny white flowers. "Wow," Zayn whispered. "It's like a winter wonderland." Mrs. Gable smiled. "It is, isn't it?" She said, "I love winter. There's just something so magical about it." She gestured for the kids to come closer. "These plants are special," she said. "They're called winter berries, and they only grow in the snow. My roof is the only place in the city where they can grow, which means that my plants need lots of water, lots of fertilizer, and lots of sunlight. That's why I keep my roof closed during the winter. If anyone had gotten up here before you, they would have melted all my plants." Mrs. Gable looked at the children, her eyes twinkling. "But now that you're here, I think we should have a party." And so the children and Mrs. Gable spent the afternoon drinking hot chocolate, eating cookies and telling stories about the old days when it used to snow every year. They laughed and joked and sang songs until the sun began to set. "Thank you, Mrs. Gable," Zayn said as he prepared to leave. This was the best day ever. He watched as the children ran down the stairs and out into the night. Then he closed the door and turned off the lights. Yes, he said to himself with a smile. It really is magical. That night, Zayn couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his bed, his mind racing with all the new things he had learned that day. Finally, as the first rays of sunlight peeked through his window, he got out of bed and went to his desk. He opened his computer and typed in the words "first snow" and hit search. The first few results were all about Zayn's discovery of snow that morning, but the last one was different. It was a video from 3 years ago showing people playing in the snow and laughing. At the end of the video, Zayn saw a familiar face. It was his mom. She was holding his little sister, Amara, and smiling brightly at the camera. "Where did you go, Mom?" Zayn asked. But his mom was nowhere to be seen. Just then, Zayn's computer chimed, and a message popped up on the screen. It was from his mom. She said she was working late, but she would tell him everything about the first snow when she got home. Zayn waited impatiently for his mom to come home. He paced the floor, he bounced on his bed, he even tried to look out the window, but all he could see was more snow. Finally, the door opened, and his mom walked in. She was carrying a large bag, and her face was flushed. "Mom," Zayn said, running to her, "why don't you have any snow on your boots?" His mom knelt down to his level and said, "Close your eyes." She handed him a small box. "What is it?" Zayn asked, his voice muffled by his hands. "Open it." He opened the box and gasped. It was filled with colorful glass beads. "What are these?" his mom said. "These are called snow globes." "Do you want to know why?" Zayn nodded. His mom said every year on the first snowfall, families would gather together and make snow globes. They would fill a jar with water and then drop in the things that represented their family. For example, this blue bead represents you because you love the ocean so much. And this red bead represents Amara because she loves the color red. Zayn's mom opened the globe and showed Zayn a small, intricate model of their apartment. "See, this is our home. And this," she pointed to a small figure of a woman holding a baby, "is us." Zayn stared at the snow globe, mesmerized by the swirling snow and the tiny figures inside. Could feel the love and happiness that his mom and dad had shared on the first snowfalls all those years ago. And he knew that no matter what happened in the future, he would always remember this moment. In the end, it didn't matter that Zayn lived in a world without snow. All that mattered was that he had the memories of his family and the love that they shared.